Well, hey, I'm Rebecca Folks, happy homemaker, mom to 4 busy kids, and online entrepreneur. I've spent over a decade in this space working with high-achieving, high-performing women who carry the weight of juggling all the things. After many ups and downs of creating balance between home life, work life, and a million kid activities too, I learned how to slow down to actually accomplish more of the important things. I believe in all the to-doing, there are deep spaces in women's hearts that are sacred to us. Conviction in our identity, hospitality around our tables, and that quiet strength that only comes when we lay our head down at night, confident we're doing a good job where it matters most. Consider this a melting pot of wisdom learned over the years. From homemaking and wellness to influencing and marketing, we're diving into the topics that have created more peace, more joy, and in the end, more margin in my business and my life. Welcome to Wide Open Spaces. Well, hey there, and welcome to a new series that we are going to be having here in September on the podcast, which is really kind of focusing on women in business. And we're going to highlight some women in different businesses and just kind of talking through what is it like to be doing all the things, which is just the cry of my heart, to be a mom and a wife and a friend and a human that's trying to do so many different things well. And today is one of my dearest friends, and I mean, legit superstar, Katie Grace Rees, and she is the owner of Katie Grace Designs. You can find her on Instagram and just ooh and awe over every beautiful image and reel that is there. She is a designer out of Little Rock, Arkansas, that does a lot of residential. She just makes everything beautiful, from just her charcuterie boards for Life Group to her incredible spaces and new builds, and just making it look seamless. But when you talk to her, she is just so real about what it's really like to be owning a company and trying to make it to football games and cheer games and traveling over here. And she has a beautiful new almost 2-year-old with a Down syndrome and diagnosis and some medical needs. And so they're in and out of the hospital, and somehow she's still doing it all and glorifying Jesus in the process, which are just some of my favorite people to be around. So I think you are going to love the conversation with Katie and I today. I hope that you feel so encouraged and just enjoy today's episode. Well, yay. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited for this conversation with one of my dearest friends, Katie Rees. We have actually been friends since high school, since junior pom days, all the things. And I'm so thrilled to still get to be close to Katie and have seen all the incredible things that you've done. So, Katie, thank you for coming on the podcast.
You're so welcome. I'm so honored that you would even ask.
Yes. I definitely asked because we're doing this series on women in business, because I feel like when you think about women, moms, multitasking, people that have, whether their own businesses or just even working moms, but especially women that we're kind of focusing on the next few weeks are women that are kind of the face of their brand. And so it feels so much more pressure when you're thinking about living your life and doing all the things. And when something, maybe is going on in your life, having to juggle, and I also am kind of the one that's keeping all this going.
Yeah. It weighs on you. Yeah.
It weighs on you. It weighs on you. Okay, so for people that don't know, I know I've kind of teed you up and told some of the just high points of all that is the face of Katie Grace Designs, but tell me just a little bit of like, how did Katie Grace Designs come to be what it is today? Yes, I want to know.
Okay, well, I would say, I think it was, so I have, at this point in life, had 2 babies. I had a 3-year-old and a baby. Brooklyn was, I think, barely 1 when all of this started. And so
what year is that?
This is in 2011.
Okay.
So what, 12 years ago?
Okay.
But to preface this, I've always been in the creative world. Like if I wasn't planning a party or hosting like dinners, like there's something that was always in me from probably childhood until I realized what it was. But there was always this desire in me of creating beautiful experiences and creating, love decorating my home. And, I went to college. I got my first marriage. We got married really young. I was 20. And so, I'm in the middle of marriage trying to finish college. And at this point, I thought, I'm just going to be a stay at home mom forever. So I'm just going to get a quick degree to get done. So I got my bachelor's in human development and life science, which tell me what I don't even know what
I did not know this about you. Okay.
Hopefully mom and dad aren't listening to know their funding went to, I don't know what my major really did for me. But meanwhile, I was still kind of searching for, little things to do like outside being just a mom. Mm-hmm. So I got my degree, had babies and started just making my house a home. And people kind of started, hey, will you come over and help me do this room? Or will you come give me some advice about this? Just because they'd come into my home and kind of see that I had an eye for it and a desire to make it beautiful. And so someone on Facebook tagged my kids' rooms that I'd just decorated. And At Home in Arkansas had the editor reached out to me, I think on Facebook, and was like, hey, your rooms came across my feed. I would love to come see it in person and maybe publish it in the kids issue and the family issue. And I was like, okay. So that is where it really, really started, where I was published. At this point, I was not saying I was a designer of any sort. I said that I loved it and I loved designing. Anyway, so she, published it. And all of a sudden after that, it was like, can I hire you to do my nursery? And I was like, sure. And so it really did kind of start from not even on the radar was I like trying to build this huge company. It was more like, wow, I could do this for a little bit of cash here and there. And at this point, I was doing kind of part-time and like, just kind of under the radar, like could go have some like extra spending cash on the side, So that's kind of how it started. And then I would say that was in 2011. I was doing like part-time. And then in 2015, my life took a big turn. Mm-hmm. And it went from being something that was kind of a hobby on the side to something that I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm going to really have to do this and like do it well and build a company. I ended up going through a terrible traumatic divorce and, I have full-time custody of the kids and at this point, I'm like, I have to fund private school and all this stuff. So it turned into like, not only something that was like, oh, this is something I'm kind of good at. No, now it's like, okay, now I've got to like run a business and make enough money to provide for our life. So from there, God provided opportunity after opportunity. It was never forced. It just always just kind of the next job came, the next huge opportunity came. I mean, it just was something that I really did not even know that it was in me to be a business owner. Like I'm kind of the shyer one of my family. And anyway, so it kind of brought out a lot of things in my personality that I didn't even know was in there. Just being, day to day, delegating to my employees, talking to clients of all different personalities, talking to all the different builders with all different personalities, and still, being a creative and actually being a creative brain to produce these things that you see on Instagram. So
was it something that you felt like when you were going through all that, did you find yourself like it was kind of an escape for you? Like, was it a creative outlet that you could kind of pour yourself into and a distraction, or was it like, or both? Pour yourself and going, how am I supposed to be creative today when I'm in full out crisis?
Yes. So I've had, I would say definitely ebbs and flows. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, over, let's say like I've really been running the company pretty full time for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've learned now in almost a decade, like there's going to be seasons where it is a little bit forced and it is
Mm-hmm.
hard, kind of in one right now. And then, but then some seasons it just flows and it doesn't feel as hard and things just are okay. But thankfully I have gone through it now for about a decade and
Mm-hmm.
two very traumatic things that have happened in my life that, and like you say, crisis, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to really step back and be like, okay, I know that this is temporary and I'm going to pull in help and I'm going to, you know, rely on my employees more. I'm going to rely on my family more. I'm going to be okay that I'm not the mom picking up the kids every day from school. Like I definitely, take those seasons in stride, knowing that it's, yeah, I'm going to have to like kind of white knuckle through it for a few months, but I
Mm-hmm.
know that there's light on the other side because I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it time and time again. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Have you found it? Are you just kind of riding the waves, or are you like, okay, I can kind of, I'm feeling myself getting on the rails. This is what this feels like. I know some of the things that I do to kind of steer myself, not steer yourself back. Some of the things are completely out of your control,
Right.
but to just add some stability into your work and your livelihood. What are some, do you have anything that you're like, well, I know this is helpful for me, this keeps me
Yeah. I
moving?
think, well, I think I kind of look at it in two different categories, like being a
Okay.
mom and also being a businesswoman, because
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of one and the same for me because how do you separate that? Because I'm only one person. But I feel like, with work, I try to, thankfully, God placed the most amazing woman in my life. I think let's see, we've been together for 4 years now, that runs and operates KGD like a boss. Like she's amazing. And she has parts of her brain. It's like kind of is the missing parts of my brain.
That's good. That's
So,
good. That's helpful.
um, so I think what's really important if you are delegating to employees that you just act, I'm just human. And it's like, I will call her and I'll be like, listen, like Caleb's in the hospital again. And I need you to like step up. And I try to, when I rely on them more, I also try to reward them more. And I try to make sure that they know how valued they are
Mm-hmm.
because I don't ever want them to feel like they're like stomping grounds for what's happening in my own personal life. Um, so I would say just having things in place with her. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not answering to a million people within the company. I'm able to just go to her and be like, I need you to take care of this. Like you have to run the day, delegate out what you need to delegate out. I'm trusting you and handing that over to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard for me,
Yeah.
being, because it's my brand and it's my name.
Yes.
So I think God's really taught me a lot in like being okay with handing over things in trust and knowing that
Mm-hmm.
it may not be exactly how you're going to do it, but it's close. And so that would be one thing I'd say I have gotten better at is delegating out to people that are working for me. And then as a mom, it's just also hard, but I try to turn it off at 5. I really do. I try. And so I think I'm kind of known for sometimes being amiss with texts, like with friends. And because I'm getting like, I get probably 400 texts in a day. So I try to like value the time. And if there's a night that it's a little off because we're in a stressful season with work, there's grace in that. But I really do try to make it like, okay, I worked my tail off until 5. Now I'm going to be present.
Right.
And I mean, obviously there's some seasons I'm better at that than others, but I would say having the strength and
Mm-hmm.
the mindset, and it almost takes a little training. Like it
Mm-hmm.
takes time for you to become like to have a habit in that,
Yeah.
but to think, okay, this can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like there sometimes there are things that can't wait till tomorrow, but most things can wait till tomorrow. And so how do I try not to bring the load home with me? Because that's, as a business owner, I think that's probably the number one most difficult thing for me, is that there's never an end to anything.
There's always
never
something
like
you could be doing.
I could work 24 hours a day
Yeah.
and still be behind.
Yeah.
And so I think having the wisdom and the maturity in the business, knowing that it's all going to work out. We're going to get it all done. We're God willing, we've never had an unhappy client, and that hopefully that doesn't ever happen, but I will, we will get it done. So if I need to take, Sawyer to the doctor or Brooklyn to the orthodontist or whatever, it's like these things can wait. So I would say,
trusting that God entrusted all these different things to you so that you're going to be able to do it, and it's going to work out. But okay. So you're saying delegating, you're saying some boundaries to be able to have
some boundaries.
Yes. And so those are kind of contributing to your,
And I think being willing to ask for help too, like having, having 4 kids, I've gotten better at this, but even having the oldest being 14 and the youngest being 2, I still struggle with mom guilt all the time. Right.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it's just ingrained in us. And so I think, I've tried my hardest, and like, okay, I couldn't go to parent teacher conferences last year because I was at market.
Yeah.
Like, I'm that mom that's like, I can Zoom, or I could, do it over the phone, but I actually physically can't be there. If you're wondering, I have really small ears.
Her earbuds keep falling
out. My
earbuds keep falling out.
Don't stay in there very easily.
You're good.
So anyway, having the, just being okay that I'm like, I'm not the homeroom mom. I'm not the mom that's picking up their kids every day. I try my hardest, but I think just accepting for myself, like what parenting is for us is, it's working for us, stressful. It's working somewhat, but being okay with like, I'm not going to compare myself to all these other moms, and I'm going to ask for help, and I'm going to be okay that I send my mom to get the kids 2 days a week and not feel bad about it. Or, just having the strength and being okay that you can't do it all and you have to ask for help.
Well, and I think it's important to kind of lean in and try to notice and ask our kids, and then just kind of pay attention to what really matters the most to them. Like there's things that I feel like the guilt or the weight of that I think I need to do so much. And then I realize that actually is not that important to them. There are some things that are very important to mine, but then there's some things that I put on myself, like I should be doing, shoulding myself. And actually those are not the heavy hitters. And when I have 4 too, and when you've got a bunch of kids, and then ours are actually almost exactly spread out the same. Our got a big kids and our littles. And it's like your business. There's so many things you could be doing. And we think, and so I should be doing all of those things too. And that is really heavy. It's really heavy.
It is. And I think I'm glad you said that, because I do actually check in with especially my big kids. My babies aren't completely aware right now. All Gracie cares about is when I travel, if I'm bringing her home something. So,
oh my gosh.
But with my big kids,
well, that's gotta be the easiest one of all then.
Oh yeah.
That's the easiest one to check off. Yeah.
Bye. See you later. But my big kids, like this week I was in Florida for an install, and, I was like, I don't care if it's not all done. I'm getting home for Sawyer's football game. Like it's just not, it's not and I was like, if I have to drive, but thankfully God provided that all the flights were on time, and I got back an hour before. But I will check in with them, especially in a busy season. So like our season right now is extremely heavy with work. And so I'll check in with them and be like, listen, like, this, you've rode this ride with me long enough that that there's seasons where it's, where I'm gone more, and I'm, not able to be at all the things. And that there's seasons where I'm at everything. So just kind of know, like in the fall, it's going to be like, buckle up. It's going to be crazy. I need grace from y'all. And just being transparent with them and not trying to be something I can't do and not trying to build some expectation that I can't meet. And so just being like, you know what, y'all are going to have to be gracious with me in the things that I can't be at, and know that I want to be there, and I'll be FaceTiming if I can't be there. And then too, like this summer, we were talking about how we feel like, my sister calls it an abused Uber driver. Like, so this summer was like chaos, just with teenagers and all
and that's about the amount of like time they give you to tell you, hey, I need to be somewhere, is about the time you would open up your app. Like, I'm supposed to be here in 6 minutes. And you're like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. And then if you're 5 minutes late, you're like, where are you?
Or they've changed it by the time you get there. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Her mom's taking us now.
And then 5 kids sometimes will just climb in the car, and then you're like responsible
taking them all home.
Taking them everywhere. Anyway, so that was my summer. And it was and that's the thing I love about being a business owner. The flip side to it is that I can be flexible. And, and I want to not miss all those things.
Yes.
And this was the last summer he won't have a car. So I'm like, this is kind of, I want to be that mom that can run them to get Wendy's and back to wherever. Yes. But one time we were in the car, and I just said, I'm checking in. Like, do you feel like, I was like, because, I think a lot of his friends' moms, I'm talking about oldest, a lot of his friends' moms have jobs. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm probably one of the only ones that is like running this kind of company. Mm-hmm. So I think the stress, he said one time, the reason I checked in with him is he said, well, some of my friends' moms work, but it's not intense like your work. Like, meaning like he knew the gravity of like what I run in a day. Right. So I was like, well, how do you feel about that? Like, do you, like when you're grown and you have, your own kids, would you look back and be sad that I had this company and had to divide time? He was like, no. He was like, you're at everything, Mom. It's not. He's like, I know how hard you work, and you're also still able to take us wherever and do whatever. And so it gave me such like a peace in my soul that I needed of just knowing, okay, they don't know like how stressed I am to do all the things. But at least he's not like, oh, you're never there. You're not like, I think we could build stories in our heads that actually are very false compared to what is actually, our kids' experiences. So, just being open and communicate with them has been a thing I've done, especially with my older kids.
Well, I think that's something you do obviously with your kiddos and then with your friends too, that you're so willing to say, I mean, I'm in a season, or this is hard, or I'm kind of struggling here, and not in a venting way, but just kind of acknowledging and kind of wanting your friends to know this is where I am. And I love that. I've told you before, just the authenticity and the genuineness of that, because it allows people around you to be real and go, I mean, in one way, it's like, well, hey, can I bring you dinner tonight? Can I pick up your kids? Or can I mean, it allows for people to know, oh, there's a need there in my, our community, our life groups that are able to say, hey, where can we step in and do this together? And it allows people to say, it's okay to not have it all together, because that's just background noise and weight in our mind that we're the only ones that don't have it all together, that no one else thinks this is hard, and no one else is like, why is it so hard for me? And other people are like, oh no. It's hard over here too. It's and hard. Something about that is kind of, oh, I'm not weak, or I'm not disorganized or it's actually, this is just hard. Caring for all these little people and working and trying to be a human. And I mean, that I'm having to write in, oh, today's the day I dry my hair. Because that's an extra 45
I need to get
minutes.
out of my leggings. Yeah.
I need to get out of my leggings. That's right. Okay. So tell me, when you're thinking about showing up when you're feeling all those, just kind of, maybe you're in a season and it's hard. And a lot of people, like, and you're trying to be creative. What's helpful for you? Can you compartmentalize that? Do you, like,
Yeah.
are you just praying and breathing in the car before you walk
Yeah.
into the flooring store?
Yeah.
Like,
I
how
fake
are
it till I
you?
make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Or D, all of the above. Yeah.
I mean, probably a little bit of all of the above. I do think, I mean, creative again, and there's two different spaces that I need, have to have in my company. And one is the creative and one is the like boss lady, right? Like the creative part to the story is it's kind of like writer's block. Like if you have ever heard of writer's block with
Yeah.
authors, it's like, when I was going through my divorce, I mean, I was like, I am blocked. Like I can't like, and if I'm telling you, if someone wanted to text me about curtains, I'm like, curtains, like my life is over. Right? I'm like, I don't know when your curtains are coming in and I really could care less, but I'm going to fake it and I'm going to be, and hopefully my clients aren't like, oh my gosh, you did that to me. But I do think I have moments when it's, especially in trauma, that I had to fake it
Yeah.
as a business owner and just be
Mhm.
like, okay, this week, creatively speaking, was very difficult and not much came out, but I know God's going to bring it back. So I'm going to wait for that, and I
Mhm.
know that I have, most of our projects they span over years. I mean,
Mhm.
1 to 3 years, depending on the job, because we
Mhm.
are doing some pretty massive jobs now. And so it's like, okay, this week has been really hard and I feel creatively blocked. So I know that it's going to come back. It's going to come back. God always brings it back. And I have confidence in that now after
Mhm.
so many years of it. So I think not panicking, like
Yeah.
being like, okay, take some deep breaths, take a
Mhm.
couple days off, spend time being in,
Mhm.
going on a hike at Pinnacle. Or when I was going through my divorce, I would be like, okay, I'm taking this day off. I'm gonna go hike or go,
Mhm.
get wine at 4 o'clock with friends, like something
Yes.
that, like
Fill
I
in the
just
blank.
knew
Yeah.
that just kind of like give yourself space to have a minute. Um,
Mhm.
and so I would say that's been one way I've kind of had a compartment for it, is just kind of like, okay, it'll come back and we're not going to panic and
Yeah.
I'm going to
And
fake
maybe
it.
just do the
And
next right thing. Like
the
the next
next
kind of
right
small
thing.
step.
Yes.
As
Small
cheesy as that.
step. No,
Yeah, but there's
no,
the
I say
next.
that all the time. Um, and so, yeah, I think that has been a big piece to like staying with this, knowing that, it'll come back and it'll be okay. And relying on my employees a little more during those times.
Mhm.
Um, because I mean, there's only so much space that your brain has. And so you just have to ride the wave a little bit and kind of just show up where you can and have grace. And thankfully, all my clients are amazing people. So, with Caleb, and I don't know if you're going to, Caleb and his story, I had a year. So do you want me to tell the Caleb
Go for it.
story?
Yes. Yes,
Okay. So
totally.
Caleb, for listeners, he, was born at 32 weeks and he has a Down syndrome diagnosis that we found out about around 11 weeks. So my pregnancy was super hard. Just the weight of what will our future look like? What will his future look like? You know, um, medically, is he going to be okay? How am I going to handle this? How am I going to juggle? We're already drowning. How am I going to juggle all of this? So, that was a real, like, very heavy time in my life. Well, then he was born, and he was born at 32 weeks with several medical complications that had some to do with Down syndrome, some just the luck of the draw. And so he spent 4.5 months from birth until heart surgery. He had to have open heart surgery at 4.5 months. Um, so he was there for, never got to come home until then. So like our kids, didn't get to meet him until he was 4.5 months old. And he came home with equipment and G-tube and, all these new medical things that I was like, oh, okay, we're going to add this to the resume. Now nurse.
Mhm. Now you're
So
a nurse. Yes.
now I'm a nurse. And so we had, just a real hard year of, when I say learning how to live hour by hour, day by day, and that year has probably been one of the most shaping years of my life of just saying, okay, there's only so much I can do in a day. I'm going to do my best. And thankfully, the clients I had were so gracious and so kind. And so I think when I just said, you know what, I'm out this week, I have, after he got discharged at 4.5 months, we were then, as you know well, Rebecca, but we were and still are in and out of the hospital all the time. And so, I mean, I think it's like he spent, 170 days of his life, and he's 2 almost. So,
yeah,
it's just been a season where it's like, for some reason, God has made this company still afloat. So because you think through all of the things that have been thrown my way, I'm like, for some reason, it keeps going and growing and working. And so I just trust God and being like, okay, I still receive this with open hands. I want to do it as well as I can, but I also am a human being who is very sinful and very scattered and sometimes disorganized and sometimes, lets the stress get to me. So I'm going to do the best I can. And some seasons I'm better at it and some seasons I'm not. So,
well, you don't appear scattered. To the people that are close to you, we don't think that. Just you look like you are thriving. I think that's a sign of a creator. And Albert Einstein, I think, said that's a sign of genius. The messy, like you, I bet you know where everything is on that messy desk.
Yeah,
a lot of it.
Yeah, I need to have like a personal organizer that just follows me around. Like, oh, you left your keys.
That would be nice.
I left my laptop in Florida. They had to overnight it. Things like that. Talking about balls dropping.
Details.
Anyway.
Okay, tell me if people wanted to find you and see what you're doing, and if they were like, because if you see just even her Instagram, yes, her website, but even just her, you're gonna go, who is that? How can they find you?
Yeah. Well, you'll just go to, I don't even know, how do the kids say it these days? Is there like a handle or something? I don't know. Katie Grace at Katie Grace Designs
on Instagram. Yes.
On Instagram.
And there's your website, just katiegracedesigns.com. It'll all be in the show notes, but if you're driving and want to know.
Yep. And then, personal Instagram is public. So you can also follow that just to kind of see Caleb's story and all of our people.
And everything that you're talking about, that you're being kind of the face behind the brand and being the mom and the business owner and we're passing each other between football games and volleyball and cheer.
All
the things.
Yeah, all the things. How you doing?
I love it.
Yeah, that one's Katie Grace Rees. So,
love it. Okay. Yeah. Well, and then lastly, just for moms that they do feel like they're doing it all and that they're walking roads that are maybe not the same, but parallel to yours, and a lot of just feeling like this is heavy and I'm doing a lot of things. And, this over here was really hard or unexpected, but I'm still showing up. Do you have any just little last thoughts or anything that just tell me?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit ago. And I have that in my journal over and over again. Every day I'd remind myself, do the next right thing. I take my daily bread. Like I pray through that. Like, okay, this is a new day and I'm going to do my best and God's going to help me with that, hopefully. And hopefully there's a lot of grace in the day. And then I would say another thing that has taken a decade to do, and having 4 kids, one, ranging all the way down to now Caleb, who's only 2, is don't compare. Like, I think I have a tendency
which is so hard.
It's so hard, but I can get kind of in a darker spot if I tend to compare to my stay-at-home mom friends, or even the mom who doesn't have a special needs child, or the mom who hasn't been through a divorce. And I think that going through hard things and also running a business, I think it's so important that I don't let my brain go there. Like, I'm like, okay, I am a unique person. God made me unique. he gave me a capacity that a lot of people don't understand. I don't know why he did, but he did. And so I can't compare to other moms, and I can't feel bad about, how someone does it and isn't going to look like how I do it. So I think comparing, especially when you feel like you're in a unique spot with being a business. I mean, I don't know what the percentages are, but there's not a ton of women that own their own businesses, right?
Right.
So I think just having your lens, like your kind of blinders on, of comparing to all the different types of moms and families that there are. So I think that helps too.
That's so good. And Katie, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I just think it's like God knew what he was doing when he put the name Grace as your middle name to your parents, because you really do, even in really heavy things and hard things, there's such a sweet grace on you. And I feel like it's just a gift that you give to other people. And I always love that about being with you and around you. And so I'm grateful for you coming on here and just spreading more of your goodness to listeners and for people that are listening to the podcast. So thank you for coming on and sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You just finished another episode of Wide Open Spaces. My hope is always that you felt encouraged as you listened. And if you found this valuable, will you share it with a friend today? Tag me if you do. I always love seeing your favorite takeaways. I'm so glad you were here, and I'll see you back next week. Same time, same place. See you then.